In this video, I'm going to solve a new example, solving finding transfer function from the simulation diagram, also called block diagram. Okay, so here we know that this is a takeoff point, another takeoff point. Okay, that's a summing point. Here is another summing point, another summing point, and this is a block. Probably this block is representing a system. Okay, so there are different blocks, z1, z2, z3, z4, and h1, h2 are the feedback. Okay, now all we know, as long as we have two blocks in series, okay, z1, z3, I can make this as a single block. I can make this as a single block as z2 times z3, but make sure that there is no takeoff point in between. Okay, here I have a takeoff point h1 in between z2 and z3. So what I need to do, I need to move this takeoff point from either here to after z3 or before z2. So that way those two are going to be in series, so I can multiply them, I can simplify them, make it into one block. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this h1 before z3 to after z3. How do I do that? Say for example, here is my z3. Here, say the signal I have is x. Okay, what I'm going to have, the output, instead of x, let me take that as u. Okay, my input, the signal there is u. So if this is y equal to z3 times u. Right now, if I have a takeoff point there, what kind of signal this is going to get? This is going to get u. Okay, now what I'm doing, I'm moving this takeoff point from here to here. Okay, so even after moving this takeoff point from here to this point, this location, the signal must receive this, I mean the port, okay, or this loop must receive the same signal u. Okay, so when I move this to here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to have another block which is divided by z3. Okay, so now what happens here, the signal, I'm going to have u times z3. Now u times the signal here is going to be u times z3 over 1 over z3. So z3 get cancel, I'll end up with u. So whenever I'm moving the takeoff point, what I need to do, either I need to multiply or divide with the block where it is moving after. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Let me erase this part. Okay, I'm going to draw only partial diagram so you can see what I'm doing there. So I have z2 there. Now I move to z3. Now what I did, here I have h1, and then I'm going to multiply this 1 over z3. Okay, and at the same time I also have h2. Okay, I just draw the part of it so you can see what's going on next. Okay, now I can easily multiply z2 and z3. At the same time, what I'm going to do, I mean this h1 is going to the next block. What I'm going to do, I'm going to move h2 towards in and this one is towards out. Okay, so when I simplify this, these two, z2 and z3 are in series, so I can multiply them. Okay, so I'll end up with z2 z3. By the way, if you look at it, h1 is going to be minus, and I believe h2 is also, so I forgot to put h2 is also minus. That's given in the given problem. So these two are minus. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put h2 first. It's not going to make any difference. Okay, because the signal anywhere on this line is same. Okay, so it's not going to make any difference. This one is h1 over z3. Okay, this h1 is going to go further. Now I'm going to simplify this. It's just a feedback signal, so that whole thing you need to practice that. That will be Z2 times Z3 over 1. If we have minus there, you have to have plus there. 1 plus Z2 Z3 H2. Okay, so this is one complete block with H2 feedback. Now I have H1 over Z3. Now again I'm going to simplify this. So if I simplify this, that's going to be, say if this is X, it's going to be, and this is Y, it's going to be X over, so I have minus there, 1 plus X times Y. That's the formula. Okay, I solved it in the previous example or previous video. Please go through that video. So here this whole transfer function is going to be Z2 Z3 over 1 plus Z2 Z3 H2 over 1 plus Z2 Z3 over 1 plus Z2 Z3 H2 times H1 over Z3. Now here these two get cancelled out. Okay, now when I simplify this, I'm going to do the LCM here. So Z2 Z3 over 1 plus Z2 Z3 H2 divided by 1 plus Z2 Z3 H2 plus Z2 times H1 over 1 plus Z2 Z3 H2. Now we can cancel these two out. At the end we will end up with Z2 Z3 over 1 plus Z2 Z3 H2 plus Z2 H1. This is the whole block. Now I'm going to draw a complete one. Okay, this thing is gone, this is gone. Now you have Z1 there, summing point. Still this H1 by Z3 is coming from there, because if you remember in this given, so I mean this feedback is connected here as well as it's going to the previous summing point. So it's going to the previous summing point, so that's what it is. Okay, so now as well as I have another summing point that is going to be Z4. This is what it is. Okay, now these two I can multiply. Again, it's a feedback. Is that feedback is negative or positive? Okay, looks like I didn't indicate here, but I looked at the problem, so it is positive. That's given. It must be given. Okay, otherwise take it as positive. So here it's going to be positive. Now I can multiply these two. Again, that's a feedback. So as usual, this complete block feedback, we can combine that, make it into one block. That's going to be Z1 Z2 Z3 over 1 plus Z2 Z3 H2 plus Z2 H1 over, since I have plus here, I will end up with minus, 1 minus that, this whole thing, Z1 Z2 Z3 over 1 plus Z2 Z3 H2 plus Z2 H1 times H1 over Z3. Now you can clearly see these two get cancelled out, and at the same time I'll do the LCM, so this whole thing is going to come over here. The denominators are going to get cancelled out, so I will end up with Z1 Z2 Z3 over, I mean you will have the denominator 1 plus Z2 Z3 H2 plus Z2 H1 over 1 plus Z2 Z3 H2 plus Z2 H1 minus Z1 Z2 H1 over, again you have the same thing, 1 plus Z2 Z3 H2 plus Z2H1. Now we can cancel these two out. The whole block I'm going to end up having, I'm going to draw the block Z1, Z2, Z3 over 1 plus Z2, Z3, H2 plus Z2H1 minus Z1, Z2, H1. Okay, now here is summing point. Here basically, I mean, you don't need to have that summing point anymore, that is added already, but you have summing point there and you have Z4 there. Okay, so the transfer function we are looking at, what is the input? Input is R, output is C. I mean, you can see some of my nodes I have C, some of my nodes I'm showing that as Y. Here you have R as input, sometimes I'm giving you input as U, so don't get confused. So the transfer function C over R, okay, he gave you C as an output, R as an input, or sometimes I gave you Y as an output, U as an input. Y over U equal to Z4 plus this whole block. Okay, so Z1, Z2, Z3 over 1 plus Z2, Z3, H2 plus Z2, H1 minus Z1, Z2, H1. Don't leave it like this. I want you to solve this. So if I solve it, I will end up with Z4 plus Z2, Z3, Z4, H2 plus Z2, Z4, H1 minus Z1, Z2, Z4, H1 divided by 1 plus Z2, Z3, H2 plus Z2, H1 minus Z1, Z2, H1. This is the transfer function. Thank you. I'll solve the next example in the next video. Thanks.